Hello, everybody. Nice to speak to you. My name is Sid Suri. I am the head of marketing here at Sendbird. We are a Silicon Valley-based startup that specializes in chat, voice, and video for mobile apps. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how chat and video are revolutionizing the customer experience inside of marketplaces today. So, the customer experience has fundamentally changed. And this is really not just about COVID. This has been growing for a lot longer than COVID. And this is really more about the mobile revolution and the social revolution than just the last 9 months. But what we've seen is that the customer experience has really changed and around three big trends that I want to talk to you today: community, conversation, and live commerce. The old way of doing things, this looks like a traditional marketplace or e-commerce site. I actually pulled this from Amazon. I used Amazon to show you the old way of doing things, which is a little ironic from the world's largest, most powerful company. But it really, just look how clunky this looks. It's an older model designed for desktops, designed for search, designed for shopping alone. And this has been reimagined. This is not how younger people want to shop today. This is not how sort of a modern shopping experience should look and feel. And this is being replaced with something more like this. And I just want to give you a quick glimpse into a video. So immediately you can see the contrast, right? Something that is very static, that is very search-centric, has been replaced by video, which could be live, could be not, but something that's fun, that's engaging, that's a little bit more about discovery, that's something you can do with your friends. And this is really where shopping is going and where marketplaces are going. Obviously, this is a video from China where a lot of that innovation has come from, but we're seeing this pick up in India. We're seeing this pick up in the Western world as well. Just to get out of the video. The other big trend I want to, sorry about that. The other big trend I want to talk about is how community is driving commerce. So that was about video and live streaming. And now I want to talk a little bit about community. Glossier is, many of you are probably familiar with it, just an amazing brand for makeup products. And Glossier actually started about 10 years ago, 12 years ago as a blog, right? So Emily Weiss, the founder, started a blog. The blog became super popular. Around the blog became a ton of engagement, a following, a community, and then she figured out how to monetize that community with makeup products and actually crowdsourced product ideas from the community itself. So really, it's an example of community driving commerce rather than the other way around. And I thought that was really interesting and something you're seeing more and more as people try to develop these communities and try to own the experience and the conversation that extends far beyond just purchasing a product. And then the last trend I want to talk about is really chat as the new center of the transaction. And this is, many of you probably saw the announcement from WhatsApp, for those of you obviously in the industry and following. This is very recent, probably mid-October, that WhatsApp announced that they are investing heavily in e-commerce and e-commerce functionality within the WhatsApp chat stream. So checkout, payments, shopping carts, reviews, all of that, all of those integrations that are really core to the shopping experience will all be now provided from within the chat experience. So essentially, the WhatsApp conversation becomes how you start the conversation, how you look at products, how you get support, how you solicit reviews, how you provide reviews, where you pay. Everything happens within the chat thread, right? And what Facebook has, I think, realized as they've pivoted from an ad-based model for WhatsApp to a commerce-based model is that if you own that conversation between the buyer and the seller, if you own the platform of the conversation between the buyer and seller, you own the transaction. You can take a cut of the transaction. So Salesforce is hoping that they can take a cut of all the commerce that happens over WhatsApp conversations. And this is already really big in India today. So those are three trends I really wanted to set up because it's a lot of what we're seeing right now. Marketplace for Sendbird is our largest segment. So we talk a ton to marketplace customers. It's always nice to be at these type of conferences. And this is a lot of what we're seeing and hearing. And this last point about chat being the control tower, the center of the transaction, is really where I'm going to spend most of my time today. Now, what's powering these trends are a lot of technologies, right? What I showed you required maybe not just the video, but the influencer who is delivering the video, right? Or a social media star, or a presence on TikTok, or a lot of content, like in the Glacier example. But there's really two technologies I'm going to focus in on: chat and video. And the reality is that none of this is controversial or really that surprising, right? Messaging or chat, whatever you want to call it, has really taken over the internet. 5 billion people now use a messaging product on a monthly basis. 5 billion people. That's a good percentage of the world's global population. What, 7, 8 billion? I mean, 5 billion people don't agree on anything in this world. They don't agree on a common language. They don't agree on a common religion. They don't agree on common values. But what they do agree on is they like to use mobile messaging on the internet to communicate with their loved ones, with their friends, with their peers. And 2 billion on a daily basis. So it's just staggering numbers. This has become the default way we communicate online. So it should be no surprise to anyone that it's also the default way that we want to shop online, right? And a lot of marketplaces have already started to build chat into the heart of the transaction, into the heart of the experience on their marketplace. And we're working closely. These are all Sendbird customers, of course. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about Carousell. So they're the largest classifieds marketplace in Singapore. They've seen a big jump in transaction conversion velocity by when they introduced chat. Timon is a large ticket marketplace in Korea, and they've seen a large increase in transaction conversion, a 5 times increase in transaction conversion. And then finally, a customer I can, it's Dubizzle, a large real estate marketplace in EMEA. They've seen a 51% increase in messaging engagement. So just great numbers for marketplaces that early on were innovative and added messaging and chat and that experience of connecting buyers and sellers in a conversation as a core part of the customer experience. And that's really what we're talking about here. It's not just about chat. It's about connecting buyers and sellers. It's about allowing sellers to build that relationship with buyers through a conversation, and having that conversation either exist on a WhatsApp or through a live stream or through a chat thread, right? And those are the different technologies that I've talked a little about so far. But I want to hone in a little bit about Carousell, a company that we've worked with for many years now, based out of Singapore. And I'm going to show you a quick little slide demo of the shopping experience within Carousell using Sendbird. And on the left we have the buyer screen, on the right we have the seller screen. And on the left you can see that the buyer is interested in this beautiful painting of a monkey, and they are now going to figure out if this painting is right for them, or this print. So right next to make an offer, they can see chat, right? So it's up in front and center. It's not buried. It's in the face of the customer. It's considered a necessary part of the transaction almost, because they know how meaningful it is to make sure that conversion happens. So you click on chat. On the seller side, you have a nice inbox. You can see all the different chats that they have with different buyers. Maybe they sell multiple products. Maybe it's multiple buyers on a single product. And then they can also see their unread message count. And that's really nice, because then they can make sure they're on top of it. And the faster the response rate and the more they're able to answer questions, the more sales they're going to get. And then they can also see when buyers are online, right? So online presence shows them that a buyer is online. And if a buyer is online, hey, this may be a great time to reach out to that buyer, to have a conversation, to tell them more about the print, to answer their questions and close that deal, right? So these little things that we don't always think about end up becoming a huge part of the experience, but more importantly of the conversion. Similarly to online presence, you see typing indicators, so the buyer can see that the seller is typing. Typing indicators, not just in commerce, but in communities, in lots of different industries, have shown to really increase engagement and ensure that there's a response. Again, little things that matter. So the buyer is interested, and then the seller gets a read receipt. So again, the read receipt make sure there's an accurate log of the conversation and all the timings, again, for analytics. The data scientists and the product managers are going to want to know, hey, if the conversation happens faster, if the first reply is prompt, what does that do to conversion percentages? So all that tracking is really helpful for analytics. And then you have the transaction triggers inside of the conversation. Again, this is what WhatsApp is announcing today, but what we've been doing, not today, sorry, last month, but what we've been doing for years and years with customers by building a private chat experience within their app. Again, what you're seeing is the Sendbird chat platform inside of the Carousell app, rather than the Carousell buyer and seller saying, hey, let's go exchange let's go exchange phone numbers, and we'll go have the conversation on WhatsApp. So this is a built-in, heavily integrated chat experience inside of the Carousell app for the sake of commerce, right? So when you do that, you can have a tight integration into your transaction workflows. And you want to make sure that that make an offer button is very visible and very prominent in the chat stream. And you could even do things like have it dynamically appear at different times, make it bigger, make it smaller, whatever you want to do. So the buyer is convinced, they got the answer they needed, they want to make an offer, and the offer update goes into the system. So a chat thread is not just for human updates, but for system and bot updates as well. And the seller can confirm the offer, and you have yourself a transaction. So again, it's about making sure that the buyer doesn't go away, they don't get disinterested, they don't leave. The purchase happens at the moment that the buyer is interested. We all know how important it is to capture that intent and act on it rather than expect them to come back. They'll probably move on to another seller or maybe even another marketplace. So again, connecting buyers and sellers in real time in a way that's really part of the brand experience of your marketplace. Now, we all know what happens if you don't provide this. If you don't provide this, then that buyer and seller might exchange numbers anyway. And if they exchange numbers, they're going to go to a WhatsApp thread or an iMessage thread or whatever it is, Facebook Messenger and Telegram, and they're going to have a conversation off platform, which means that the transaction might happen off platform, repeat transactions might happen off platform, and the marketplace gets cut out of the revenue. So keeping that conversation within the mobile app is absolutely key here. And then, so the next example I want to talk about is Schibsted. So we talked a little bit about Carousell. I want to talk about a customer called Schibsted. Schibsted is part of the largest online classified group in the world, and they use Sendbird Chat. They're based out of the Nordics. They actually have a whole lot of brands underneath them. The brand that we work closely with is called Blocket. Blocket is a marketplace in Sweden, a classifieds marketplace for general goods. And again, they use Sendbird Chat in a very similar way as Carousell. Partly why I'm calling them out here, what's a little bit different, not different, but a point of emphasis for Schibsted was safety and moderation. So for them, their brand is so important to them, and there's such a concern in Sweden and a lot of those Scandinavian countries around just making sure that there's no spam, that there is no unwanted messaging by sellers to buyers, that the conversation is safe from to minors, from a pornography and abuse and all those other things. So when they came to us, that was a huge emphasis for them. So we provide a lot of moderation capabilities built into the chat to help them ensure that the conversation is on brand, is safe, is something that they don't have to be worried about. And one of the features we implemented for them is not just banning a user that acts that uses bad language or whatever, but shadow banning them. And what shadow banning does is it doesn't let the banned user know that they've been banned, right? Because what happens is if you ban a user, let's say a buyer who's being, abusive or whatever, they'll just go create a new account, and then you'll play whack-a-mole just trying to, take down all these buyers, or not buyers, but all these bad actors. And what shadow banning does is essentially says, hey, you're banned, but you don't know it. So you can keep typing. Nobody on the other end is seeing anything, right? So little things like that just help keep the conversation safe as conversations become a bigger part of the shopping experience. This is especially useful in open channels, right? So the next example I want to talk about is Traveloka. Traveloka is a large travel marketplace in Indonesia. And, they took to live streaming just recently, last year, this year. This year, it's seen a ton of growth with COVID, and they just actually had an epic deal live stream to 1 million people or so, where they had 1 million people connect to the live stream and got to see live influencers and proprietors talk about hotel deals and flight deals. And I know very difficult during the time of COVID, but something they felt they needed to do to survive, to go beyond just the traditional shopping experience and really have this more connected experience with the customer, with conversation as a big part of it. So all these travel enthusiasts, potential shoppers, potential buyers can have a conversation on an open channel while they're watching the live stream from the influencer, from the hotel owner, from the travel blogger, or whoever. And again, in those open channels, moderation becomes really important. So just 3 customers I wanted to highlight here that are doing some really interesting things with Sendbird: Carousell, which is the demo I showed you, Schibsted, and Traveloka. So really, we're helping not just these 3 customers, but a lot of customers with the trend around conversations and video as the heart of commerce. As a company, our mission is to build connections in a digital world. So what we do is provide the technologies to connect users through chat, through video, through voice, across the globe, in-app or on websites, over our back-end chat platform, so that they can build relationships, typically so that they can execute a transaction like a marketplace, or it could be ride sharing or food delivery or another model of transactions. So that's who we are a little bit. We have been around for about 5 years. We have over 100 million monthly users on our platform, with over 1.7 billion messages sent per month. So we're pretty mature and pretty sizable. We like to joke we're the largest chat platform you've never heard of. We have customers across the globe in the marketplace vertical. I talked about Schibsted, Carousell, Dubizzle, Traveloka, but Timon I talked about. We have Yell in the UK, Keto and Dar in Brazil, SSG, which is owned by Samsung in Korea, Paytm, giant payments and marketplace in India, Careem in the Middle East for ride sharing and food delivery. An Chegg, an education marketplace, Hinge, which is in dating, which is a different type of marketplace, a relationship marketplace. Lots of sort of very large, very sort of brand sensitive, very demanding in a good way, with very demanding sort of scale and complexity use cases that we provide our platform, on top of which they can build chat experiences and video experiences. So we have 3 products: Sendbird Chat, which is the core product, which connects users either one-to-one or in a group, in a private group or in an open group, in a conversation. Sendbird Calls, which is the same thing but for video and voice, and Sendbird Desk, which is a customer support product. The big difference in what we do and, let's say, a WhatsApp or a Telegram, which you're all familiar with, is WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. So now they own the conversation, they own the experience, they own the functionality. You sort of lose uh, the platform. You lose sort of sight of that conversation, right? You don't own the data that happens inside of WhatsApp. You don't own the experience. That's their thing. What we do is we are a chat platform without a UI. We can give you a sample UI if you want, but really it's a chat platform without a UI. So the UI is your UI. The experience is your experience. It is chat embedded or integrated into your application, into your website. You own the data, you own the experience, you own the brand, you own the functionality. If you say, hey, I don't want to give typing indicators and read receipts, that's up to you. You consume the features you want to. If you say, hey, I don't want it to work this way, I want it to work that way, that's fine. You have all of that flexibility because we are a sort of a white label chat platform, if you will, that you access over an API. And really, at the end of the day, what we do is we give your team peace of mind so that you can build these experiences, you can have the power of chat, you can access this without having to build it yourself, without having to maintain it yourself, without having to worry about all the functionality, trying to recreate a modern best of breed WhatsApp type experience inside of your application is probably a multi-year project just to get something off the ground, not to mention maintain and enhance. And that's something that's pretty hard to do. So what we do is we allow you to sort of access all of that functionality inside of your application with just a few lines of code to access our API, and then have peace of mind that all of that functionality is available on day one and just works. And I like to say we build what you don't want to. So while building chat might be fun for developers, nobody wants to build moderation. Nobody wants to build offline caching for when a user is offline. Nobody wants to build the analytics, the search, the multi-device support, keeping up with Android versions, keeping up with iOS versions. We just added support for Huawei phones. So, I mean, all of that complexity and diversity is not fun for most development teams, and sort of we do it so you don't have to. So that's a little bit about Sendbird and a little bit about some of the trends that we are seeing in chat. So the first question is, how are your customers using analytics to drive marketing efforts? So it's a great question. Actually, analytics is a huge portion of why customers pick Sendbird, because you do own the conversation. A lot of them are, now you've asked how they driving marketing efforts. To be honest, most of how customers use the analytics is to drive conversion. So they try to look at the sentiment of chat, the frequency of chat, which sellers have chat, are they correlated to their basket size, are they correlated to the number of transactions they do, the sentiment of the chat thread itself. So is it positive, is it negative? So there's a lot of that goes into trying to correlate chat with conversions. Now, one thing you can do, this is not a Sendbird functionality, something that we are launching very soon, but you could do with third-party tools, is even have suggested replies, right? So if you want to make sure that you're guiding the conversation in a certain way and using the kind of words that are correlated with conversions based on your data science, based on your analysis, then you can actually have those as suggested replies for the seller and for the buyer, especially for the sellers, to guide that conversation towards a close. So something that a lot of our customers are doing, and a feature that we will have out of the box very soon. From a marketing effort standpoint, we do provide a broadcast piece, a functionality for broadcasting to all users, coupons, promotions, end of sale, reminders, price drops, whatever you fancy. And that gets used quite a bit for marketing. Tying that to analytics, I think, sort of use your imagination there. But let me see if I can find some specific customer examples. Do you think chat still has a role in facilitating transactions where buyers and sellers are anonymous to each other? Absolutely. I think keeping anonymity is a huge part of this, right? Because you don't want to have them have to exchange phone numbers to connect on a WhatsApp thread or exchange emails to connect over email, right? You want to be able to protect the anonymity of a buyer. The seller probably doesn't care, but the buyer does, while still being able to ask questions. So depending on what if their username is, Sid123 or, new guy 123 or whatever, they can state their profile is visible, but they're anonymous, and they can still have that conversation, ask questions, and conduct a transaction. So protecting anonymity is, I think, a big reason why in-platform conversations are better than off-platform conversations. Do you offer smaller packages for early stage teams? Absolutely. All our pricing's on our website, sendbird.com/pricing. And you can, we have packages that go down to a few $100s a month for up to 5,000 users, or 5,000 buyers and sellers, number of people chatting on a monthly basis. So, we have a lot of startup customers, but then, obviously the examples I gave you are some of the largest. How significant is video as a service for you versus chat? Has this been growing this year due to COVID? Absolutely. So we launched video this year. So I don't have pre-COVID data for us. We launched our video product in March, and have seen huge growth in it. It was sort of the right product for the right time. Obviously, we didn't decide after COVID. It's been in, sort of development for 6 months prior to that. So, it sort of started in 2019, but the timing just worked out. We actually acquired a company to sort of accelerate our development efforts. But video has seen a lot of growth. There's sort of, both two big use cases. There's recorded video, and then there's video and one-on-one conversations, and then there's live streaming. We've seen a ton of growth in live streaming, actually, more so than one-on-one video for marketplaces. We've seen one-on-one video grow more in sort of dating and communities, and some other sort of industries. In marketplaces, what we've really seen is a lot of growth in live streaming. That's been really hot this year, for us, and I'm sure for our competition as well. And that's essentially a influencer live stream with a chat conversation on the side of it, so that you build engagement with those users, and hopefully they end up buying. So those are all the questions I saw in the chat thread. Thank you for submitting them. I think we're also out of time, so I just want to say thank you again to everybody. I really enjoyed this virtual experience. Hopefully next year I'll be at the conference itself and meet many of you in person. And again, if you want to learn more about us, it's sendbird.com. Thank you. Bye.